My name is Lucas Silva, and at my cousin's wedding reception, an event that was being live-streamed to my family's 3.2 million combined social media followers, my uncle grabbed the microphone during his speech and said, "I want to thank everyone who's made something of their lives. Unlike some family members who are still living in their parents' basement, playing video games at 26. He looked directly at me while saying it. I was sitting there in my thrift store suit, feeling 400 wedding guests and thousands of online viewers witness my public humiliation, when I realized that in my pocket was evidence that would destroy my family's influencer empire forever. What they didn't know was that I had been secretly recording their conversations for months, documenting how they staged fake content and scammed their followers out of millions. The silence that followed when major news outlets started calling during the cake cutting was deafening. My family's faces went from smug superiority to pure terror when they realized the family loser had just become the whistleblower who would end their careers and send them to prison. If you're watching this, hit that like button and subscribe, because this story gets absolutely devastating. Drop in the comments where you're watching from. I want to know where my fellow family whistleblowers are. This is my story about how one night of public humiliation led me to expose the biggest influencer fraud scheme in social media history, and how I watched my famous family's empire burn to the ground in real time. Growing up in the Silva family meant living inside a 24/7 content creation machine. My Aunt Carmen and Uncle Roberto had built a massive social media empire around their perfect family brand, luxury lifestyle content, motivational posts, and expensive courses teaching people how to live their best life. Carmen had 2.1 million Instagram followers who believed she was a self-made entrepreneur who built her wealth through mindset coaching and online courses. Roberto had 1.1 million YouTube subscribers who watched his daily vlogs about financial freedom and passive income strategies. Their daughter Sophia, my cousin, was the golden child with 800,000 TikTok followers who showcased their family's lavish lifestyle, designer clothes, exotic vacations, expensive cars, and their massive mansion that served as the backdrop for most of their content. Then there was me. While my family was building their social media empire, I was struggling to find my place in the world. I had dropped out of college, moved back in with my parents, and was working part-time jobs while trying to figure out my life. I wasn't photogenic, wasn't charismatic, and definitely wasn't living the success story that fit their brand. "Lucas is going through a rough patch," Carmen would say when followers asked about me in comments. Not everyone is cut out for entrepreneurship. Some people are meant to be employees, not employers, Roberto would add during his motivational videos, never mentioning me by name, but making it clear who he was talking about. The exclusion from there. Content was systematic and humiliating. Family gatherings were filmed for their vlogs, but I was always positioned out of frame or asked to help behind the camera when they posted about family success. I was the cautionary tale they never directly mentioned, but everyone understood. When? "Are you going to get serious about your life?" Sophia would ask me during family dinners, her phone always recording for potential content. "My followers are always asking what happened to you." I felt like a ghost in my own family, present but invisible, watching them build fame and fortune while treating me like I was too much of a failure to be associated with their brand. My discovery of my family's fraud started completely by accident. I was living in my parents' basement, which happened to be directly below Roberto and Carmen's home office, where they filmed most of their content. The walls were thin, and I could hear everything they discussed during their business meetings. At first, I thought I was just overhearing normal business conversations. But gradually, I started noticing discrepancies between what they said in private and what they posted online Remember, we need to make the course sales look organic, I heard Carmen say during one late-night call. Create some fake testimonials from different IP addresses and make sure the success stories sound believable. The Lamborghini is just a rental for the weekend, Roberto told someone on the phone. But make sure you get enough footage to last us 3 months of content. The followers love the luxury lifestyle stuff. I started paying closer attention to their conversations, and what I discovered was shocking. Their entire lifestyle was fake. The mansion was rented for content shoots, the luxury cars were borrowed or rented, and their successful student testimonials were completely fabricated. But it got worse. I learned that their online courses, which sold for $2,997 each, and had generated over $8 million in sales, contained no original content. They were stealing material from free YouTube videos and repackaging it as their own proprietary system. The idiots will buy anything if you put it in a fancy package. I heard Roberto laugh during one conversation. We're basically selling them free information for $3,000. Felt sick listening to how they talked about their followers, people who genuinely believed in them and had spent their life savings on courses that were worthless. Lucas, what are you doing down there? Carmen called down to the basement one day when she heard me moving around. You're not eavesdropping on our business calls, are you? Just watching TV. I lied, not ready to reveal what I had discovered, but I knew I had stumbled onto something huge. My family wasn't just exaggerating their success. They were running a massive fraud operation that was stealing millions from vulnerable people. Over the next 6 months, I systematically documented my family's fraud operation. I started recording their conversations using my phone, taking photos of documents they left around the house, and tracking the discrepancies between their online claims and reality. I discovered that their 8-figure business was actually generating most of its revenue through credit card fraud and fake testimonials. They had created dozens of fake social media accounts to leave positive reviews for their courses and had hired actors to create video testimonials claiming massive success from their programs. The evidence I gathered was overwhelming. Audio recordings of them discussing how to create fake success stories, screenshots of their real bank accounts, showing they were broke despite claiming to be millionaires, photos of rental agreements for the cars and mansion they claimed to own, email chains with actors they hired to create fake testimonials. But the most damning evidence came when I discovered their refund prevention strategy. They had developed a system to make it nearly impossible for customers to get their money back, including threatening legal action against anyone who complained publicly and creating fake legal documents to intimidate people. If someone asks for a refund, tell them we'll sue them for defamation, I recorded Carmen saying during a team meeting. Most people will back down rather than deal with lawyers. I felt disgusted by how they were destroying people's lives for profit. I read emails from customers who had maxed out credit cards to buy their courses, expecting to learn legitimate business strategies, only to receive recycled content that was available for free online. The hardest part was maintaining normal family relationships while secretly documenting their crimes. I had to smile and nod when they bragged about their latest scam, pretend to be impressed by their fake lifestyle, and act like I believe their lies. You should really try to learn from what we're doing, Roberto told me during one family dinner. We could teach you how to make money online if you weren't so lazy. If only he knew that I was recording our conversation and that his admission of fraud would become key evidence in the federal investigation. I was planning to trigger Sophia's wedding was planned as the ultimate content opportunity, a lavish celebration that would be live streamed to their combined 4 million followers and used to promote their success lifestyle brand. They had hired professional videographers, planned strategic content moments, and even created a custom hashtag for the event. I arrived at the wedding, knowing it would be the last time my family would ever have a reason to celebrate. I had already contacted the FBI about their fraud operation and was waiting for the right moment to go public with my evidence. The ceremony was a perfect Instagram moment. Designer dresses, exotic flowers, and a venue that screamed luxury and success. Sophia looked beautiful, but I couldn't stop thinking about how the entire wedding was being paid for, with money stolen from their victims. During the reception, the family's true colors started showing. Roberto had been drinking and was becoming increasingly aggressive about their success compared to other family members who hadn't achieved their level of fame and fortune. "Look around this room," he said during his speech, gesturing to the elaborate decorations and expensive venue. "This is what happens when you commit to excellence instead of making excuses." The speech was being live-streamed to thousands of viewers who were commenting about how inspirational and motivating the Silva family was. Then Roberto's attention turned to me. "I want to thank everyone who's made something of their lives," he said, his voice carrying across the ballroom and through the live stream. "People who understand that success requires sacrifice and hard work, unlike some family members who are still living in their parents' basement playing video games at 26. The camera operator actually zoomed in on me as Roberto spoke, broadcasting my humiliation to thousands of live viewers. I could see the chat exploding with laughing emojis and comments about the family loser. "Lucas here is a perfect example of what happens when you choose comfort over growth," Roberto continued. "While we're building empires, he's building, well, nothing." The applause and laughter that followed felt like being stabbed repeatedly. 400 wedding guests and thousands of online viewers had just witnessed my uncle destroy my reputation for content. I wanted to stand up and expose everything right then, but I knew I had to wait for the FBI investigation to be ready. Made it through the rest of the wedding reception by focusing on the fact that Roberto's public humiliation of me would soon be the least of his problems. But I didn't expect the consequences to start that very night during the cake-cutting ceremony. My phone started buzzing with calls from unknown numbers. I stepped outside to answer, thinking it might be related to my FBI report. "Is this Lucas Silva?" the voice asked. "This is Agent Jennifer Rodriguez from the FBI Financial Crimes Division. We need to speak with you immediately about your family's business operations." My heart raced. The FBI was calling me during my cousin's wedding reception. "We've been investigating the Silva family business empire for several weeks based on your report," Agent Rodriguez continued. "We are ready to move forward with arrests, but we need to coordinate with you first." It turned out that my evidence had triggered a federal investigation into wire fraud, mail fraud, and racketeering. The FBI had been building a case against my family for weeks, and they were planning to execute arrest warrants within 48 hours. "Your recordings and documentation provided crucial evidence we needed," Agent Rodriguez explained. "We estimate they've defrauded customers out of over $12 million through their fake courses and testimonials." But then my phone rang again. This time it was a reporter from a major news outlet. "Lucas, we've been investigating influencer fraud, and we understand you have evidence about the Silva family empire," she said. "We'd like to run an expose story. Are you willing to go on record?" I looked back at the wedding reception through the window, watching my family celebrate their success while being live streamed to thousands of followers who had no idea they were watching criminals. "Yes," I said. "I'm ready to tell the truth. Lucas, where are you?" I heard Sophia calling from inside. "We're about to do the bouquet toss for the live stream." I walked back into that reception, knowing it would be the last time I would ever see my family as free people. The next morning, I woke up to 73 missed calls and hundreds of text messages. The expose had been published at 5 a.m. with the headline, Influencer family empire built on $12 million fraud scheme, exposed by family member. By 7 a.m., it was trending on every social media platform. By 9 a.m., major news networks were covering the story. By 11 a.m., FBI agents were executing arrest warrants at the wedding venue where my family was staying for their post-wedding content shoot. I watched it all unfold from my parents' basement, feeling a mixture of vindication and sadness as I saw my family's empire crumble in real time. Carmen's Instagram account went from 2.1 million followers to 800,000 in 12 hours as people realized they had been following a fraud. The comments on her posts changed from admiration to outrage as followers demanded refunds for the courses they had purchased. "You stole my life savings." One comment read, "I maxed out my credit cards for your fake course." Wrote another, "Roberto's YouTube channel was flooded with videos from other creators exposing his stolen content. His financial freedom brand was destroyed overnight as evidence of his fraud became public." Sophia's wedding livestream, which had been saved by thousands of viewers, became evidence in the federal case. The same reception where I was publicly humiliated became the backdrop for her arrest. Footage as FBI agents took her into custody for conspiracy to commit fraud. But the most satisfying moment came when I received a call from one of their former customers, Lucas. "I saw the news about your family," she said, crying with relief. "I spent $3,000 on their course last year and lost everything when it didn't work. Thank you for having the courage to expose them." For the first time in months, I felt like I had done something that truly mattered. My phone rang again. This time, it was Roberto calling from jail. "Lucas, you need to retract your statements," he said, his voice shaking. "You're destroying the family over some misunderstanding." I exposed criminals who happened to be my family. I replied calmly, "There's no misunderstanding about fraud. You ruined Sophia's wedding. You ruined our business. You ruined everything." He screamed. "No," I said firmly. "You ruined everything when you decided to steal from people who trusted you." 6 months later, the legal consequences of my whistleblowing were complete. Carmen was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison for wire fraud and money laundering. Roberto received 10 years for racketeering and conspiracy. Sophia was sentenced to 3 years for her role in creating fake testimonials and helping launder money through her social media accounts. Their social media accounts were permanently banned from all platforms. Their influencer empire, built over 6 years, was completely destroyed in a matter of days. But the most important outcome was that their victims finally got justice. The FBI recovered over $8 million in stolen funds that were returned to customers who had been defrauded. The fake course empire that had destroyed so many lives was finally shut down. My life, meanwhile, changed in ways I never expected. The FBI offered me a position as a consultant, helping them identify other influencer fraud schemes. Major news. Outlets wanted to interview me about the importance of whistleblowing in the social media age. "You did something incredibly brave," Agent Rodriguez told me during the final court hearing. "Most people wouldn't have the courage to expose their own family's crimes, especially after being publicly humiliated by them. The hardest part was losing my family relationships, but I realized that those relationships were built on lies and exploitation anyway. The people who truly cared about me would never have publicly humiliated me for not participating in their criminal enterprise." I received thousands of messages from people who had been inspired by my story to speak up about fraud in their own communities. Young people reached out to thank me for showing that doing the right thing matters more than family loyalty when crimes are involved. "Your story gave me the courage to report my boss for stealing from our charity," one person wrote. "Thank you for proving that truth is more powerful than fame." Looking back on that night at Sophia's wedding, I realized that Roberto's public humiliation was actually a gift. It reminded me that my integrity was more valuable than their approval, and that sometimes the people who dismiss you are the ones who most need to be held accountable. Sometimes the people who call you a failure are the ones who are failing at being decent human beings. Sometimes exposing the truth means losing your family, but gaining something more valuable, the knowledge that you protected innocent people from being victimized. If you've ever been told you're worthless by people who are living lies, remember that your worth isn't determined by their approval. Sometimes the greatest success is having the courage to do what's right, even when it costs you everything. Leave in the comments if you've ever had to choose between family loyalty and protecting innocent people. And if this story inspired you to value truth over fake success, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about the power of doing what's right. Remember, fame built on fraud will always crumble eventually, but the courage to expose the truth will always be remembered as heroic.